This is Ben Franklin, welcoming you to the Forecast, where we light a candle rather than curse the darkness. Each week, we highlight the people proving that progress isn't just possible, but necessary. As Poor Richard said, energy and persistence conquer all things. Now, let's get to work.
Welcome back to the Forecast. Today's guest is Nick Rathod, a force behind the scenes of some of the most important fights in modern progressive politics. He has advised nearly every consequential Democrat over the course of the last 2 decades, including 3 presidents, 2 vice presidents, and many others. Helped build the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau with Elizabeth Warren, served in the Obama White House, ran Everytown state campaign for Michael Bloomberg, and founded the State Innovation Exchange, turning it from a scrappy idea into a multi-million-dollar engine for progressive power in state legislatures. He managed Beto O'Rourke's campaign for Texas governor and probably doesn't even know how Beto was my own professional white whale. And in 2023, he and I found ourselves in the trenches for Jamal Bowman for a brief period during the infamous fire alarm incident. Nick's been everywhere from grassroots to government, and he's got the stories and scars to prove it. Nick, welcome to your Forecast.
Thank you, Keegan. I'm excited to be on.
Me too. So I want to start with the 2025 election. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm curious if you all still basking in the glow of making history there in Virginia?
Yeah, and it was very exciting to be involved in. You know, I was advising, and I have my own PAC here actually in Virginia. So I, was helping through that and connecting with, all the groups on the ground and the candidates. So it was really fun to be a part of all of those races. So it was very historic.
So, I live in Maryland, and so I worked in Virginia politics for a number of years. Some might say I got my start 2001. I think you and I have talked about this. I was the IT director for the Democratic Party of Virginia while I was a senior in college. That's awesome. Way back when Warner was running for governor. So Virginia is a special place in my heart. It's always funny for me because I'm always fascinated in Maryland, which ads you get into my media market the most. And so take a guess, which ad do you think I heard the most here in Rockville?
Oh, I am speaking the Winsome Sears ad. I'm sure that one was hilarious and actually very effective. So
yeah. Obviously I'm a digital guy, so I'm always I always make a point when I'm like, why am I getting this ad? Obviously I've talked to plenty of linear buyers, and they make the argument on how, there is efficiencies, even though I'm getting it in Maryland here buying the DMA, but it always makes me laugh every time I get off your
get a little taste ads.
Of it. The J. Jones one I got a lot too. My kids were asking
I'm
me.
sure that one also that was a tough one.
Do you all does everybody feel pretty good going into 2026 and beyond, based on?
I think so. We not only were the 3 statewides successful, we also made gains in the, in our House as well. And they started moving towards really taking on a big fight with this redistricting effort here in Virginia as well. So I like where it's going. I like the direction that Spamberger's kind of moving in as well. And I think we're very excited about that. I think the opportunity to kind of roll back some of the Youngkin things will be good. I think go on the offense and be proactive around some big issues here in Virginia, I think will be good. And, we're very excited about what happened and where this is all going.
I'm also really eager on the redistricting. I used to work with HMP, and one of my favorite districts was Spamberger's because it was, obviously such a tight district. And I'm always curious to see how her old district will fare if redistricting happens in Virginia.
It'll be interesting actually. So as you know, or I don't know, your listeners may or may not know, we have in 2020, I think it was, there was this effort, there was this big fight here in Virginia to around redistricting and who should be in control of it. And we moved to this independent commission, a 16-member commission. In 2020, that commission was at an impasse and couldn't, decide or come to any agreement on the districts. And so it went to the Virginia Supreme Court. they picked. I guess you could probably call them pretty fair districts. That the split we have is here is 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans. But with Trump's efforts now on redistricting around the country, I mean, I think Virginia saw, look, we can't just let this happen. We have an opportunity here, just based on how our districts are sort of mapped out to potentially change and gain, 3 more seats in Virginia for Democrats. So, they took it on, and it's going to have to move to a referendum here as well in order for us to recast those districts. So it'll be an interesting next several months around it here.
And when's that going to be on the ballot?
I think the earliest it can be is like April. So they have to take another vote in January when the legislature reconvenes, because they went into a special session right after the election in November, or maybe it was late October. And then, they have to take another vote, and then it goes to a referendum probably around or before April, likely.
That's great. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And
yeah,
as someone who's been a political hack for most of my life, I've always been in favor of like more competitive districts. Way back when, I remember pitching someone on like America 2020 like campaign to try to have like nonpartisan redistricting everywhere in the country, with the argument that like more competitive districts means more work for all of us, and it's good for democracy. And that was
the order, Keegan.
But like, obviously, I'm really excited what happened in California, and I agree. Like in these times where the Trump machine is going to do anything possible to try to give them an edge in the midterms, that we can't see it any ground there.
No, I agree. I mean, look, it's I agree with you. I if all things were equal, fair districts is the way to go. It's good for democracy. I think ultimately having competitive districts, like, kind of also brings out better candidates, all of those sorts of things. But in this environment and in this world right now, we're playing a different ball game, and Democrats, I'm happy to see are stepping up in the states we control to meet Trump on that battlefield, at least, and push forward. So I was also very happy to see what was going on in California, and like I said, Virginia and other parts of the country now too. So
it may all come down to Virginia.
It might.
Yeah.
As always.
New York, California take that from you.
As always. It all started here, so
right?
We'll end it here.
That's a good line. Speaking of competitive districts, it means more primaries, and you and I have both been in some contentious primaries in our career. I always like asking guests, what do you think? Like, is there a way for Democrats to have primaries without it leading to so much bad blood that seems to happen?
Good question. In this day and age, it is tough. I think that it becomes very volatile, and because of how media works, I mean, you're an expert on this. Like, the only way to actually capture the algorithm or whatever is like through conflict, and so being provocative, saying crazy things, is sometimes the best way to break through. And unfortunately, that does create bad blood. I think at the end of it, though, we definitely need to be in a place where people can sort of circle the wagons again and push forward. I mean, New York was just terrible. What happened there, after that primary, and some of it is just egos and the people involved too. So, but yeah, I mean, as a party, I think we have to circle the wagons a little bit better and support each other more, I think, than just this kind of infighting that seems to have happened, at least in New York this last time.
Did you watch Severance on Apple TV?
No.
Right. So the basic premise, do you know the basic premise?
Yeah, I've been wanting to.
I won't ruin anything for you or our listeners. I think it was fantastic. I love the show, and I came to it late, so it's one of those things where I got the pleasure of binge watching the first couple of seasons and then catching up, right as the season 3 wrapped up. So I was able to catch the last couple episodes in real time, which was a fun experience. And anyway, so like there's this whole innie and outie, like you can't remember like if you're when you're at work, you have your work life and then your home life is completely severed. So when I was watching that show, I was joking with someone. I'm like, if only we could do that with primaries. Like, I think
Yeah.
back to like,
Yeah.
yeah, I lost a bunch of friends like working for Bernie. They like one person actually was like, you ruined my wedding, like because Bernie did so well, I wasn't able to get married. And I was like,
Oh
well,
my
I don't know why you
gosh.
planned your wedding during a presidential primary. Like, the
Oh
rest
my
of
gosh. I mean, especially operatives shouldn't take it so personally. I mean, understand like we're all in it and we're fighting and like, doing what we can for the belief system or values or whatever we want to push forward. But,
yeah.
and it is tough. But ultimately, people decide that's what democracy is. And we don't want the other side to win. So it's not healthy to have this fracture or a fracture going into a general. So.
Well, you make an excellent point. Something that I've certainly taken advantage of my career. It's just that, like, social media, especially, but all media now, it's so driven by like vitriol and like
Yeah.
anything that will, clickbait, right?
Yeah.
Engagement bait, and that was the one thing I like. It was short lived, like many of our victories. We have to move on to other things that happen, but between Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, and California, you saw like this new coalition forming for Democrats that I felt like allowed people to have different views and still support a similar agenda around like affordability. Obviously like the Virginia gubernatorial, New Jersey gubernatorial, there were some similarities, but they had like different messages. It wasn't entirely the same. And like Mamdani's was obviously like a little bit different in how he's tackling the problem, but it was all around, centered around like solutions, right? To things people care about. So I was really excited because it felt like for the first time
Yeah.
in a while, there was actually this, consensus that like whether you were a liberal or a progressive or a centrist or moderate or center right or center left or whatever you call yourself, there was something that you could actually be a part of again. I
Yeah.
don't know. Do you think that can continue?
I hope so. I actually think that's one of the keys to Democrats like regaining power. I mean, there was a point in time, I remember, I was in the Affordable Care Act fight in the White House, and some of our biggest challenges was on our own team. At that point, we had a senator in Nebraska, a senator in Louisiana, we had Missouri, we had all of these places, and we had a Bernie Sanders. But the important thing about that was, and West Virginia, but the important thing about that was that we had this big tent. We could be a Democrat in West Virginia and in Vermont and in California, and at least have a circle around things like affordability. It may not be perfect, a perfect box to put everyone into, but at least we had power. And I would much rather have Democrats voting for or talking to someone like a Kirsten Sinema, even though I know people hate her, but versus like the crowd on the right that we have now who are just won't do anything. You could at least talk to one another and maybe get some of our agenda passed. So I hope we move in that direction. It's very like place-based politics is important to lean into, and Mamdani would never win in Virginia, but I don't know if Spamberger would win in New York City either. So, and that's okay. That's the direction I think and I hope we go.
I grew up in upstate New York and a lot of family in New England, and like most of them were like classic New England Republicans, like most of my extended family. And I remember joking with them that they would all be Democrats in Virginia, because when I moved down here, it was like my first experience working in politics outside of like the New York hemisphere was coming in and volunteering in Virginia, because no one cared about Maryland elections then, and everybody was focused on Virginia and volunteering there and being like, they all sound like you would be a Democrat here. You wouldn't be a Virginia Republican.
That's true. That's very true. And maybe you would be a Republican somewhere else. Who knows?
Yeah, no, it is interesting how much the geography changes your perspective.
Yeah, totally. And it's so interesting too. I mean, even though we are like on these different, now it seems different planets from each other, Republican and Democrat, there is a lot of people in the middle, and that can be a little bit conservative on certain things and liberal on other things. And those people are just all, I mean, I think so many of us are just lost in that, and so even though we've kind of taken on these teams, that again, because of the way communication works and the way the politics is now, there's just these two camps. And either you're defined, like the whole entire media narrative around Mamdani was, oh, is he now the face of the Democratic Party? Well, to me, that's just bullshit. It's dumb, to think of it that way. It's not binary. That we are, democracy, I think, thrives when you have more different types of voices in it. And, you can't just define us as like, oh, you're either MAGA or you're a socialist, as a society. So hopefully, again, we can get away from that and maybe move more towards like a politics that's more representative of who we actually are as a country.
I hope so. After the 2016 election, I was like, well, Trump won. At least now we'll all come together to fight Trump. They're my famous last words.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it worked. In 2016 we were. I felt like we were pretty galvanized together. And now, I mean, even me, I'm like so angry right now at the Democratic Party and the establishment and the system that like it's really hard. I don't want to necessarily plug back in the same way. I don't want to be part of that system that's like created this mess, and trying to find projects and other things that will help me, will help kind of disrupt that a little bit. So, I think it's a healthy thing to go through that actually, because we can't keep having the same outcomes clearly.
Were you mad about the shutdown?
Yeah.
Result?
Yeah. I was, look, we were on the heels of, of this like these great wins across the country, at every level and in every place we had it, from California to New York. And then all of a sudden, they just decided to capitulate on that. And we were, winning. And I understand, look, I'm in Virginia and there's a lot of people, a lot of friends here that were out of work. There was people who wanted to travel. The holidays were coming up, but it's just at some point we've got to fight, and we can't keep placating, to these, they're literal terrorists, they're holding the country hostage. And I feel like we just constantly give in to them, and with no benefit, no political benefit at all. Like they got some promise of some vote in the future. And then immediately, like the day after, they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you that vote, but now you got to give us more restrictions on abortion access.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. There you go. So, what was it all for? Is the question I keep asking myself, and asking those particular people.
Yeah, that was my big fear going into all of this. I was like, well, what is going to end up being the point? Like, I constantly go back and forth in my head with like, was it actually worth any of this? Right? Like, because similar to you, lots of neighbors around here who are impacted by the shutdown, and now I was worried going into it. Everybody was debating on, do we fight? Do we capitulate? What do we do here? I certainly wanted to fight. I was worried that we would have gotten exactly the outcome that we got. And it makes me wonder if it was worth it all. I do want to give a little grace to Schumer here. I think it was like a really difficult situation for him to be in with his caucus. I don't know, like, is there anything you would have like tried to do differently? Yeah.
No, I mean, look, he held his caucus together for 40 days, which is, the longest shutdown in history. I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on him to capitulate. I just think that, again, and Trump even said this, like one of the points in the victory that we had that Tuesday prior was that we were winning on the shutdown conversation. And I do think that like continuing to drive that narrative home, we would have eventually gotten, I think, on healthcare, the thing that we needed, which was the subsidies for Obamacare, and maybe even more after that. So I would have really tried to push him to hold the line, and that's what you got to be as a leader. It's tough. And there's going to be a lot of differences of opinion, and these are big personalities and egos, but your job as leaders to hold the line, and and I wish you would have for a little bit longer at least, because I think they were blinking.
It seemed like they were blinking. I mean, and also it seemed like they were going to start ratcheting up the pain purposely to try to get us to blink. And I think that was obviously wasn't there. Sadly, it wasn't snap, but it was threatening that all of the disruptions to travel, they were like, oh wait, well, people are going to be inconvenienced flying.
Right. Right. And
So
again, they don't care. And I just think that if we could drive that home more, it would be helpful. But at least we got now this Epstein conversation, which
yeah,
I think is also just another, kind of another pressure point that we can apply. And I hope we do not back off of that. Because I actually do think that this is one thing that could potentially sever his relationship with his base, maybe more. So
I never thought I was going to say this, but are you now a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene, given everything that's happened?
I know it is insane to think about it. This is why politics is so interesting and fun. But yeah, like it's amazing to me to see how much of what she's saying right now I agree with. And I actually am very I'm want to support her for standing up, because it can't be easy. I mean, if Trump, kind of casts his eyes on you, it's like the eye of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. He's on her. It's very dangerous. So she's particularly being brave, and I applaud that. So, and I never ever thought I'd say that about
Yeah,
her.
I mean, she apologized this weekend for contributing to the divisiveness and I forget her
Yeah.
exact words, but contributing to so much political violence, really, right? Like
Right.
that, I was just listening to her, I was like blown away. I was like, who is this person?
Yeah. Well,
But
I mean, I don't know. It feels like, and this is why I think people don't like politics as much, because it just feels like, okay, who's the real Marjorie Greene Taylor? And who is the real so-and-so? It's like, is everything just a show now, And are you really believe that or not? Who are you? And now we have this new version because he didn't want to, what was it? He didn't want to endorse her in the governor race there or something. Is that what it
I
was?
think Senate, it was Senate or
Or
governor.
Senate.
Yeah,
Yeah. Senate. Yeah.
one of the
So,
segments.
so now she's like a whole, I mean, literally a different human being. So
Yes, I agree, and also I'm always constantly amazed. Trump is the only one I've ever seen who can get away with these shifts and still feel authentic to folks. It's like he's authentically a shapeshifter, and so
yeah,
he's always able to just he came out and said, okay, yeah, release the Epstein file.
right.
You've been fighting this for
Yeah.
tooth and nail, and now you realize you're about to lose. So you're like, I've always been in support of releasing the Epstein files, even though they said they didn't exist. No one ever talks about in the spring. There was a period of time where they're like, what Epstein files?
Right. Right.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Gosh. Yeah, no, they just totally, and he just gets away with it too, which just drives me crazy.
It drives me crazy too. I mean, it's but on Marjorie Taylor Greene, one more question for you. And this is maybe me being a little hopeful, but it seems like there is a growing schism within MAGA, and she's certainly trying to fan the flames of one side.
Mhm.
Do you think she could be successful in driving a huge wedge with his support?
I think so. So, I mean, she is someone who has her pulse on their base. She's spoken, the
Yeah,
language of her base, and she's focused on the things that I think they ultimately care about, which is, which is affordability and economic policy. But then also, that base is tons of. It's like all conspiracy theorists, and this has been a big issue for them forever, and they. And partly part of this too is some of those conspiracies are actually who knew, some of this stuff is actually true. And and now she can speak to that, and he's now defending the status quo, and that entire base is about disruption. So I think she could, if she plays it right, she could really harness a lot of those people and capture those people in a way that drives a full-on wedge between his base and him.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it'll be amazing to watch. I definitely have a bucket of popcorn for
Yeah.
the what is next. It's been I'm about to email out to my list later today on track all this data, this thing called the drift of what people are talking about, and it's been amazing. Epstein has just completely consumed the zeitgeist, due in part to Bill Clinton, like lots of Bill Clinton jokes, which it's been like a blast from the past. All of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bill Clinton sex jokes back online. There wasn't social media during his impeachment.
Yeah. Actually, good point. Right.
So all
Right.
these people who have been like holding these jokes for like 30 years are
It was like
like,
flooding the zone. But it just and I think it's interesting to see like how things are falling, kind of just where this is all falling, like the fault lines here, and like there is this defensiveness on the right of like Trump, and it's a Democratic hoax, and it's like
yeah,
Epstein hoax and all. And for us, it feels like we're like, yeah, expose all of these people. I mean, it's terrible. Like at the end of this, what should always be centered is the victims. These are babies that were getting taken advantage of by the most elite, wealthy people in the country. And this is where, like, I think I would align with the MAGA base is that take them down. This is screw those people. Like they think they can get away with everything. They manipulate. They think that they can just do whatever. And it's time to hold people accountable, whether it's Bill Clinton or Donald Trump or whoever else is in that. Let's see them all go down because it's about time.
yeah. One of the most disgusting side effects of all this is you see like Megyn Kelly being like, well, 15 isn't that young. I'm like, it's a daughter who's 13, and like, just like to see her like trying to spin it as like, well, they were like barely legal. We're not talking about years.
I can you imagine like those words coming out of your mouth or like anyone's mouth who like is sane or not a pedophile or just total piece of shit. I mean, she should just be completely disqualified from commenting on anything else after that. Cause that, like, of all things, our, as adults, as a society, like our number one obligation is to defend and protect our children and our youngest and our most vulnerable. And like, for her to defend that is just, it's way beyond the pale.
My mouth doesn't usually drop. I'm not usually agape when I see something from Fox News.
Yeah.
That one really got it. And I hope that she reflected on her comments and realizes what she said and how dangerous it is what she said, because it's just.
I hope so.
It's gross, and I agree. Like it's, as a parent, both you and I are parents. Like and I've always felt that there's a coalition across political lines of like we can't always agree on everything, but we can agree that like our kids should be safe and like should have opportunity and like they should do better than we did. I don't know where all the Epstein stuff is going to go, but like it feels like there is a broader thing there that like we can all latch onto, regardless of what we think our government should look like or what we think our politicians should act like or talk like. That like, hey, this is absolutely wrong. Yes. Do you think that this can hold people's attention, or is something else going to come up soon that we're going to forget about Epstein for a little bit?
Well, there's like warships moving into Venezuela. There's like, so we'll see. I think he's going to try to figure out ways to distract. Their whole strategy is to distract. And, don't look over here. I'm going to do this like crazy thing over there. Yeah. This is really where the Democrats need to, and everyone, Marjorie Greene Taylor, anyone who cares about this, keep it front and center. Like it is the responsibility of all of us to keep it in front and center until like this comes out. So I hope if there's going to be any kind of message discipline or any type of discipline on the left and in the media, it has to be on this. And I pray that that's what happens, because we cannot. This is again the thing that I think can maybe help change a lot of things that are currently happening.
Yeah, and for a little bit, I thought they were gonna, because the whole like we're gonna investigate all the Democrats, versus Democratic hoax, and then it's like conspiracy to protect Democrats, and then I thought that they were trying to maybe they couldn't figure out like their judicial jujitsu to like block the release, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Yep, let's release them." My fear is that they're going to find a way to selectively release stuff and be like, "Hey, it was like Bill Clinton all along," and all these other bad Democrats. Right. I don't know what's going to happen there. I think it feels like there's enough Republicans who are like going to not play that game.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. Like that is my fear, that like there's just going to be just enough to like whet people's appetite, and then you can have the distraction. But and that's where it gets dangerous. So that is something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I hope that there's enough Republicans, Democrats keep pushing on it, because it is one of those things that does resonate,
Yeah.
and people care about, even beyond all of the affordability stuff. I
Do
think.
you have any MAGA relatives in any extended family?
No, but I grew up in Nebraska, in rural Nebraska. So, actually, no, and I do not. I don't know if they're MAGA, but they're definitely Republican, so conservative. So, two levels of this. I grew up in Nebraska, and so still have very good friends back there who are MAGA. They're farmers, cops, that sort of thing, and I talk with them, whenever I can, especially when I go back home to Nebraska, where my parents are. And then in my family, I come from a long line of pastors. So my dad is a preacher. My uncle's
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
grandfather was, yeah. So my dad was a pastor in like rural Nebraska. And he's actually very liberal. But his brothers, a couple of them are pretty strongly conservative. So it's interesting talking with them.
Do you so I'm going next week to upstate New York. My wife's extended family is all in Poughkeepsie, and they all get that's where the matriarch is, and it's we don't talk politics as a rule because it's pretty wide range of political views there. But I'm always like tempted, especially at times like this, to be like, so did you read the emails?
I think there may be common ground on that one. So it'd be interesting to see like where your folks are.
Yeah,
and
will
like,
you talk to your relatives about all this?
yeah, so we're actually going to my wife's place. So and they're a little bit more. They're not MAGA, so we usually have pretty good conversations. Where we do disagree is on Narendra Modi in India. Because our families are Indian, so
Yep.
he has his own version of this there. But here, domestic politics, we're on all pretty agreement.
Well, that must make for a very civil Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you incorporate are there Indian dishes that you bring in? Because my wife's family is
a
Lebanese.
little bit, yeah. Because they, my wife's family are all vegetarian, so some of those dishes we'll bring into it, but it's mostly traditional. Stuffing and mashed potatoes, and me and my kids and brother-in-law, we eat meat, so we'll bring in chicken or turkey and that sort of thing too. So yeah,
we have Lebanese / traditional American.
Oh man,
it's 60. Not all of them are Lebanese American, but some a big chunk are, and it's kibbeh and
oh wow,
tabbouleh, and then turkey and
that's amazing. That's one of my favorite cuisines. So you're making my mouth water.
Yeah, it was. Some might argue was one of the things that sealed the deal with getting married was the first time I went to my then girlfriend's family Thanksgiving, and I grew up only child. My parents and I we mostly spent Thanksgiving traveling places, which I love doing, and eating at a restaurant for Thanksgiving is quite fantastic actually.
Yeah.
I didn't have that big family Thanksgiving experience, and when I went and had that food and the big family experience, I fell in love with their family.
Yeah, it is something special about having that. And it is because of that. It's my favorite holiday. I love it. Just getting us all together, spending some time to reflect on the year or whatever. There's not the burden of having to give gifts and all that stuff, which I love Christmas too. But Thanksgiving is just one of those things where it is really nice to think about family and what you have. So
what are you most thankful for this year? Not to put you on the spot.
So I turned 50 this year, and I'm grateful that I have my health. My daughter's graduating high school, so grateful that we're getting through that, and now applying to colleges, and my sons are doing well. So it's really about that stuff that I'm most grateful for.
Yeah, no, I feel that as well.
How about you?
Yeah, health is definitely up there. I had some health scares in the past. I'm always very grateful, especially because my health scare was right before Thanksgiving a few years ago, and I think about it a lot this time of year on how thankful I am on good health for me and my family. Right, as a parent, that's they always thing that scares me the most is there's something wrong with my kids.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And yeah, I mean, and especially as I mentioned, I just turned 50. Like as you get older, I just see like, man, there's so many things that could just go wrong, health wise or otherwise. And so it is a blessing every year to like, be in good health, because it's by the grace of God, I think that that people kind of get sick or not, or whatever. So yeah.
Yes, and I am. It's something where when you're younger, at least for me, I felt like I took it for granted, and I I think it's a common trope. You get
Yeah.
older, and I'm like, man, I really wish I didn't take it for granted, because that knee, it's like it's not the same. And maybe if I had taken better care of it when I was younger.
Yes, yes, yes. I still fall into some of those traps. Like I love food, and I like getting people around food and all that. So my diet's still not where it probably should be, but I'm definitely trying to work out more and do more of those. And I am actually cognizant of what I'm putting in my mouth, even if I fall short sometimes.
Well, so you and I both love food. I this random idea I was thinking about in terms of bringing people together. What if we launched a line of restaurants that was all about like blue and red America coming together at the table and like sharing, breaking bread and building consensus on ideas.
I love that idea. I love it. We should do it. We should just do a traveling thing on that.
Pop up.
Yeah, and record it and have like a famous chef in each location.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Yeah, and bring
sort of like Anthony Bourdain, but for
politics.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm sure we could find someone to sponsor us for that.
and I can't wait to see what happens with everything with the Epstein files this week.
I think that there's opportunity there, and there's a lot that Democrats could be doing. There's a lot the media could be doing around it, to further expose what's been going on there. So
you've worked with a lot of candidates on media and obviously like number of presidents and like if we were actually in the White House right now and you were trying to build a campaign to get people focused on this and be disciplined, is there any tips that you want to share for?
I think there's two things I would do right now if I was in the White House. I would probably do what we just talked about, a tour of the country, and start talking about affordability more than anything. I would start there. Like people are struggling right now. People have been struggling for a long time. So if I was and I had the power of the presidency, it would be focused 100% on that. And then you can, in those conversations, when you are, kind of talking to people about what matters to them, this is also something, not necessarily that it's Epstein, but it is like one of the reasons why we are in the place we are at right now. I think that, there's been way too much consolidation of power, way too much consolidation of wealth. And that wealth and power has led to corruption, not only, and Epstein's a symptom of it, but also in the economics, because that consolidation means that that wealth is not in other people's, it's not in the country, and people, they don't care. Clearly they don't care, that if we could drive that narrative home around the country, around dinner tables, that type of thing, I think then both the Epstein thing, but the Epstein thing again speaks to all of it in that way, for me, and that's where I would drive the narrative.
No, I think that's great. I think there's a clear contrast on like helping powerful people like get away with anything, including sleeping with underage kids,
right?
Versus like helping your rich friends do all this crazy stuff, versus helping just regular America be able to live right now.
You eat, travel a little bit, like little things like that. The fact that he was proactively working against SNAP, these are the most vulnerable people that, and it drives me crazy that the Democrats are not driving that message home. I mean, we're talking about it. It's obvious to us. Like, where's Hakeem Jeffries on this? Like if Schumer has failed, it's on that, like where is this? And I know like one of the challenges I think we have not only is the messaging problem, but, and I know people really focus there, but they also have this asymmetrical advantage on communication channels. Like they control X, they control Washington Post now, they control Sinclair Broadcasting, TikTok, let alone Fox News and some of these other cable news networks, Joe Rogan, all of that sort of stuff. And so that ecosystem allows them a little bit of actually not a little bit, a lot of a significant advantage in driving narratives and messages. But it just feels like we don't do anything. We talk in circles. We use old, kind of tactics because we have old people, like advancing those tactics. And we just can't seem to get out of our own way when it feels very simple, the messaging on this. And I think, we talked about me working with Beto. Another guy to look out for is James Tallarico down in Texas too, who's kind of talking about this. And I think, if Democrats wanted to look at where a narrative, a strong narrative, I would look at what the type of stuff he's saying as well, because he's got it right.
Yeah. You reminded me, I wanted to bring up Beto. That's funny. But I before I go on that tangent though, I do want to, I want to ask, like, I'm obviously biased. My background is in paid media.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Like, we need to build all these channels. That requires a lot of money. Like, it costs them a lot of money to build, what they've done, and also the willingness to lose money, right? Like, not all of these endeavors that they do on the right, make them money until the rich people who are behind them get someone like Trump in the office, and then they're making tons of money, right? Like that was a long-term investment that clearly paid out for a number of business interests that were helping support this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to like change that perspective, because like on the left, it feels, you tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like we're always very short-sighted. It's like, we need money for the election in 2 months. It's not like, and anytime I've tried to pitch anybody on like, we need to build out this 5-10 year plan on media, their eyes gloss over. Like, wait, what about next year?
Right.
Do you think that there's a way that we can be more strategic there on like funding? Like,
I hope so. I mean, this really is, you're hitting it on the head, Keegan. Just the donors on the left are not like the donors on the right. We have actually equal amounts of money on the left and right when you really look at it. Yeah. But it's just that the right, for example, when I was running the State Innovation Exchange, I studied a lot of like the infrastructure they were building on the right, and they had been doing it since the 70s. There was this Powell memo that was written in the 1970s that was really their roadmap for taking back control of the country. And now a lot of that stuff is coming to fruition. And that was the 1970s. It's a long time ago. And our donors need to take this a longer view and really spend time, because all of those things I just mentioned, cable news, those are now old assets. So fine, control those things. Where can we now control that's new, which is AI, blockchain? There's other types of media out there that's not captured. Like, how do we think about those things moving forward as in the political context? Even media, like mass media, this is where I've been spending some time, is like in entertainment, culture, those types of things. Like, everything now is driven by culture and influencers and that type of thing. So there are things out there that we could be focused on that no one's talking about. And I'm hoping that our party and our Democrat, because you're right, it's either reactionary or it's immediate. So the things I've seen, this is why I'm mad. The things I've seen coming out of the election are, we need to study men. And there was like this effort, like, I don't know, they call it the Man Project or some stupid thing. And some donor gave them $20 million to go study men and create like gyms or something ridiculous. And then
I missed that.
We can talk offline about that. I don't want to go. And then, and then it's just like reactions, or we need a Joe Rogan on the left. That's going to be you, Keegan. But it's like that. It's all just like this stupid reaction, or like you said, it's immediate. So, we have $1 billion in the election, and we still can't win. So that says that it's more structural and more long term. That I hope maybe we can learn some hard lessons around. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, for any funders that are listening, I would just like to offer my endorsement of Nick, who's a brilliant strategist, and you should give him money to build long-term things because that is
Thank
definitely
you,
necessary. I wholeheartedly agree with you on like that shift in our focus.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I look forward to us talking soon. I'm going to save my Beto story for you because it doesn't really line up with what we're talking about right now, and an excuse for you to come back on my podcast so we can talk a little
I
more.
would love to come back on. Let's definitely talk about it. It'll be a fun Thanksgiving because, discharge petitions coming on Tuesday. Hopefully there's some stuff that'll be some holiday reading that you can do, Keegan.
I'm printing out the emails. I'm just gonna leave them. We don't try. Again, there's a rule in my wife's family. Like, let's not talk politics here because we don't want to get an argument. We want to sell it, and I respect that. I'm tempted to just print out and put on the on
the table.
Seat. Yeah, just some reading. Just some light reading.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it during dessert, so we can get through dinner.
Get through dinner. Yeah, don't kick it off there.
All right. Well, have a good rest of your November. I look forward to talking to you.
Thank you, Keegan. We'll talk soon. This was great.
Bye.
Okay.